In this video, I'll be covering how to hack in Cyberpunk 2077, helping you to master this somewhat cumbersome minigame. Hacking is a mostly optional side game that occurs when players attempt to breach or connect to an access point. I'll start by giving a brief overview, so feel free to skip ahead if you're familiar with the details of this minigame. Each passcode on the right is referred to as a daemon if you're breaching a network, and a data mine if you're breaching an access point for some eddies. In the top left, you have your timer that will start as soon as you click on the first alphanumeric combination within the code matrix, and then to the right of the timer, you'll have your available buffer slots. You can think of the buffer slots as how many tries you have to fit all the passcodes below in the respective sequential order. The minigame ends if you either run out of time, run out of buffer space, or complete one or more of the sequences. Ideally, the goal would be to match all the sequences below in your buffer space above to either activate all the available daemons or to unlock all the data mines to maximize the amount of eddies you get from an access point. The challenging part of this is being able to fit all the sequences below in your buffer space while maintaining their sequential order. The game operates in a very straightforward pattern. You begin at the horizontal top row, choosing which alphanumeric combination you want to begin with. Once you select your first combination, you'll have to pick within the vertical row the next combination. After that, you'll have to pick the next combination from the horizontal row of the combination you just selected. So the pattern begins by choosing a combination from the first row, then choosing one from the vertical row, then horizontally, back to vertical, and so on and so forth. You may notice at times that even if you have available buffer slots, a sequence may become unavailable. That's because the game recognizes that there's no longer a chance for you to complete that specific sequence. So here are some helpful tips to remember to help you hack your way through Night City. Remember that the timer doesn't start until you pick your first alphanumeric combination in the first row. This means that you can spend a little bit of extra time planning out where you want to start and seeing where each combination will lead you to in the code matrix. You can also hover over any alphanumeric combination in your sequences to the right, and it will highlight within the code matrix the location of where you can find that combination. Numbers are also able to overlap and share a buffer space, so pay close attention to the beginning and end of each sequence. If two numbers match, and if planned correctly, you can start and end a sequence at the same time, saving you an extra buffer space. If you ever find yourself stuck on an alphanumeric combination that will require you to restart the whole sequence, make sure to check your buffer space. If you have an extra slot available to spare, you can select the same alphanumeric combination again to maintain your spot of where you were in that sequence, and then move on to the next combination within that sequence, which will save you a bit of time and even help you in completing the whole thing. Be sure to take note if two sequences share a lot of the same combinations. This will allow for you to complete both sequences at nearly the same time. I've found that prioritizing both these and the shorter sequences tend to save me both in buffer slots and time when trying to achieve a 100% sequence hack. There's also an option to cancel out mid-hack if you realize that you're not going to be able to unlock all these sequences in your first try. Simply close out and it will exit you out, allowing for you to restart from the beginning with a new set of codes. This can be really helpful as the sequences are randomly generated and will sometimes offer you even easier sequences the next time you come back in. Do keep in mind though that the game is still a bit buggy. I've had experiences where I'm able to close out completely with no issues and then come back in, and other times I'll close out and I won't be able to come back in or try again. That's because once you finish an access point, you're unable to try again because the game registers it as completed. So if you want to be extra safe, I'd advise in making a manual save if you're particular about wanting to maximize the amount of eddies you get from an access point. For breaching, I've noticed a lot less issues when closing out, but just keep in mind that when you do close out of a breach, there will be a cooldown before you can breach a network again. This minigame rewards you for planning out ahead, but there are some things that you can do outside of the minigame to give yourself an advantage. I recommend upgrading your cyberdeck as soon as possible. It'll give you a much more comfortable margin of error because it increases your buffer slots. You'll notice that at the start of the game, the buffer size is relatively small at around 4 slots, but if you upgrade your cyberware, the buffer size, depending on which upgrade you choose, can be anywhere up to 8 available slots. This means that you can worry less about starting and ending sequences on the same number because you'll have more space to fit those sequences. Upgraded cyberdecks can be purchased from most Ripper Docs, and personally I got mine from Vic, which you can find located here, and he's also the first Ripper Doc that you see in the story. Cyberdecks are also fairly inexpensive when compared to other upgrades in cyberware, so I highly recommend upgrading your cyberdeck first because not only will it make hacking easier, it'll also help in providing more dynamic gameplay because of all the additional mod slots that you can put in your new cyberdeck. That's going to be it for a quick guide on how to hack in Cyberpunk 2077. I hope you walked away with some helpful tips. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, and if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe and to ring that bell to stay up to date with all things Cyberpunk 2077 related. Let me know in the comments any tips that you may have for other players, or just let me know how the game's going for you in general. Until next time, stay safe and I'll catch you all in the next one.